A memo of agreement is binding like a contract, even if you don't have a contract, right?
A memo of agreement.
Yeah, when a coach signs like Belichick.
A memo of agreement. Depends what you agree to. You know?
Do you have an update on Aubrey's progress?
She's getting there. It's getting close. You know, she did a lot more today than she has. So we'll see tomorrow. We'll see tomorrow.
Is there any
Yes,
chance
yes.
of tomorrow, or you
Or
don't?
Sunday, you mean?
Sunday. I'm
Sunday?
sorry.
Oh, yeah, depending on how things go tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, there is.
How are you adjusting to coaching with almost a full roster?
Lousy, it looks like. We scored 25 points in the first quarter, scored 11 in the second quarter. So I'm not adjusting very well to it, I guess. Yeah, it makes it challenging. Obviously, it's great. At the same time, the only thing you're trying to figure out is how deep can you go. You know, are you going to take out somebody that just went 4 for 4 because you know you're trying to get everybody in? So it's a challenge, but you know, it's also a great luxury to have. You know, when people are struggling, for sure. When people are struggling, it's a great luxury to have.
How's Aubrey handled all this? It's been a while since she's played.
Things always happen at the worst possible times, right? And last year, her injury came right in the midst of when she was playing her best basketball of her career. So, can she get back to that immediately when she comes back? Probably not. And, you know, unfortunately, she's been dealing with this sort of stuff since her high school career when, you know, she had her first ACL. Yeah, I can't imagine these kids. I never had experienced anything like that then. My injuries came way after, and I didn't respond very well to it. So I can imagine how they're feeling and how they're acting happy. But I know it's got to be killing them to go through all this.
How good do you feel for her that she's that close to being back finally?
Well, she's put a lot of effort and a lot of time, a lot of work, obviously, into doing all this, and she needs to be rewarded somehow, some way. She has to be rewarded, and I feel, I'm grateful that she's going to get an opportunity to give it a shot anyway. Where it is at the beginning, I don't know, but just. I'm sure just putting your uniform on and running up and down is a big deal for her right now.
How would she change the equation when you play teams that have like a dominant superstar type player? Having her available.
Yeah, I think it depends on you know, situations. I think the Aubrey's history in the past has been that she would just erupt offensively and defensively and completely dominate a game. And being able to stay in that moment long periods of time, I think is going to be the key for her. So, yeah, if we have the opportunity to get her into a game where we really, really need somebody to stem the tide or create, you know, something for us. Certainly, there's nobody on the team that has, you know, the skill set that she has. So it's just one more thing you can throw at a really good team, a really good player.
Seton Hall started off really well. Besides being projected to finish 7th in the league, I think they're 3rd right now.
Yeah.
What's impressed you the most, especially adding Faith into the lineup?
Yeah, coaches are the worst people that you can ask to pick who's going to be good and who's going to be bad, and especially in today's world because you don't know what you're getting coming in. So, you know, they're getting great point guard play, right? And who knew? You know, Tony probably knew, but who knew on the outside? Faith you knew because you've seen her play a lot. You know, she was really productive at Maryland. So I'm not surprised that she's had such a huge impact on that team. And, you know, as far as pick to finish 7th, again, that was just a guess. And I think they're way better than that, obviously, if you watch them play. It's never easy to play a new team, and they're a new team than the team we played last season, right? I played St. John's the other day. They're a completely new team from what we saw last year. So, yeah, they're an NCAA tournament team, and they've got terrific chemistry. And again, they've got 2 guys that we mentioned that are really, really, really hard to play against. Really hard to play against. You know, when you have your big guys that can shoot, that makes you hard to play against.
Should Paige have another 6 points in her, how impressive is it that she can reach 2,000 in 102 games faster than anybody here when you've had such iconic players?
Well, it's 2 things. One, her scenario, her situation, quite different than all the other players that we've had. Paige was a National Player of the Year as a freshman, so right away she got off to a start that set her up for things like this. And secondly, she's been fortunate and unfortunate. Fortunate when it comes to points, to be on a team without a lot of other amazing All-American type scorers. So she got to benefit of that. The unfortunate thing is it's hard to win national championships unless you have those guys. So her consistency and her efficiency, she doesn't take a lot of shots. To me, the most impressive thing is she doesn't take a lot of shots to get to those numbers. And if she took the same number of shots that a player of her caliber would, you know, not that we tell her don't shoot, I think she would have got here a lot quicker too.
What's the most impressive part of her game right now?
I think just her, how she makes it look that it's never hard, it's not a struggle for her to get her shots off, get the points that she wants. Now, there are times when it doesn't look as easy as others. There are times when she passes up a really good shot. We call it up. She passes up a lot of good shit for some bullshit stuff. And if she would just take the good shit, she would get even more points. But she, you know, sometimes tries to do a little more. So to me, the efficiency, every time she shoots, and she feels the same way. And every time the ball leaves her hand, I think it's going in. And when it doesn't go in, the reaction is shock. Now, how many players do you know like that? It's pretty impressive.
You have 2 of those, right? Were they-
Well, right now we have one. One is, you know, working her way back to that.
You know, if you could take Paige somehow back in time and drop her into one of those teams where she would be surrounded by 3 or 4 All-Americans and maybe the national landscape being what it was then as opposed to now, what kind of a career do you think she would have had?
I mean, you think about those teams that came really close, right? Feast and Lou, when they were juniors and seniors, okay, and Gabby and Kia and that crew. If you plugged her in to them as close as they came, you know, and the 2 buzzer beaters that we lost, maybe those games go a different way, and maybe she's already got 2 national championships at that point. But life doesn't always put you in the position you want to be in, and you gotta function in the time that you're in. But Yeah, I would think that the better the starting five is from a pure talent, experience, and all that you put her in the middle of,
Yeah, with her unselfishness.
with the even better she's going to be.
Yeah.
It's like when we drop D in the middle of, Asia, Tamika, Swin, Sue, that whole crew, and your best player on your team is sitting on the bench. So it's invaluable to have that surrounding cast. When you look at those banners on our wall of the best players ever to play here, and you look at the years as they're in chronological order, right? And you start going, wait a minute, that one, and that one, and that one, we're all on the same team. How'd they do that here? Oh, they won 2 national championships. No shit. And then you look at the years where there's stuff missing, you go, how'd they do that here? They came up a little short. So those two things are so connected that, even those people who say the only time we win a championship is when we have the best players. You thought of that yourself?
Just you.
Yeah.
Do you remember a moment from Paige's freshman year where I imagine you were pretty happy with her coming in as a recruit, obviously, but where you thought, okay, she might be even better than we thought she could be?
I wasn't sure how she would be. I wasn't sure whether she would be a pass first or a score first, a point guard or off the ball. She was so frail, and you don't know how she's going to handle. But I think maybe 2 things stood out. I want to say, one, a game at Seton Hall where I think she maybe had like 5 points or 6 points in the first half and had like 25 in the second half, where it was just like, holy shit, like people were like stunned. And then the South Carolina game here in the bubble year, that bubble game where I think she scored the last 13 points for us in the overtime period. Those moments were the first moments, really, those 2 stand out from her freshman year, where you're just shaking your head and say, there's a quality about her where she comes up really, really big when you need her the most.
With all the injuries and everything, I mean, how do you feel like her game has developed the most from her freshman year to where she is today?
That's what I was thinking about the other day, have those injuries taken anything away from her? Is she as quick as she used to be? Is she as explosive as she used to be? Or have they taken their toll a little bit? And and I watch the film, and and there are times where she looks quicker, she looks stronger, she looks more, able to handle some of the other stuff. I think her game has changed where there's a willingness to want to impact the game right from the opening tap. Whereas before it was, I want to let the game come to me, which I've never been a big fan of for your best players. I don't like that. And I've had to deal with it a lot. So I think that I want to impact the game right away. And you've seen that pretty much this year, most of our games, that first quarter, that first 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes that she's out there, it's like we get her the ball 4 or 5 times in a row, and right away it's a 10-point run for us. I think that's probably the biggest. She asked me, actually she even asked me yesterday, she said, who did you yell at more as freshmen, me or Sarah, about passing up open shots? I said, you passed up more open shots. Sarah passes up opportunities. Those are 2 different things. But they both have similar characteristics. They just are too unselfish for their own good.
To go back to Dom's question, if you dropped Paige onto the 9 and 10 teams, the undefeated teams, and she had all that scoring and Maya with her, would she just be an elite point guard, maybe breaking your assist record now instead of the points?
Anybody that played with those guys could break an assist record. or if you're the only guy that gets assists. It's not easy to get an assist record when you have 5 guys on your team that are great passers. Now, you have 5 guys that all have over 100 every year. It's easier when Nika's got the ball in her hands 99% of the time and no one else can pass. So it works both ways, I think. You know, the other thing that happens is she might not average as many points. She might not get as many touches. She might not get as many shots if you put her in that situation. I tell people all the time, they're shocked to hear this. Nikisha Sales in her career averaged 24 minutes a game, right? And scored 2,500 points. She averaged 24 minutes a game. What if I played her 34, 38, like some of these guys have the last couple years? How many points she scores? But at the same time, when she was a freshman, we had 3 National Players of the Year on our team. We had Kara, Rebecca, and Jen. So you're not going to get as many opportunities, and you got to be efficient, and you got to make the most of your opportunities. And that's what Paige is doing now. She's making the most of her opportunities.
Coach is on a time limit, so if we have any
Whoa.
topics we want to visit besides Paige, now would be the time.
There's been a lot in the last day or so about NIL and being compliant with Title IX. Are you following that much? And what are your thoughts on them trying to do that from the government level?
The Title IX part?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered how that was going to work. If you say Team A gets to spend 20% of, or 22%, whatever it is, and that comes out to $22 million. Well, how are they going to distribute that $22 million if there's federal guidelines saying this is where it has to go? When there's a team playing for the national championship that they publicly stated cost $20 million to build that team. So if you're saying that leaves $2 more million for the rest of the athletic department, that's probably not the winning edge. So I think if there is any federal legislation when it comes to that, it's going to end up impacting where your money, how you allocate your resources. And then the other thing that I don't know how that goes is what happens to these collectives. Some people are going, hey, no more collectives, they're going away. Well, I haven't read where everybody has said that. So what are we talking about? We're talking about 22% of 100 million, which is what they publicly stated. In addition to, you know, the cash that I won at the poker table that I didn't tell my wife about. You know, like what are we talking about? How big is that number? And, you know, how big of a part does the legislation play in the Title IX world? And how do you figure that out? So I'm sure there's going to be ways, I don't know this for a fact, but okay, let's say you're a revenue producing sport, you're a revenue producing sport, you're a revenue producing sport, you're not. Okay, you get X, you get Y, you get Z, you get 0. I don't know. I think all this remains to be seen. That's why it's, I don't know how the landscape's going to look, but it's not going to look like the way it looks right now.
How close is Easy to being that player that every time she shoots, you think it's going to go in again? And you believe that will happen this year?
I hope so. I hope it's almost there now. I just look at a person's face, you know, and I look at them and I go, they think every shot's going in. And when you see that, then you know they're pretty close. When they're a little bit frustrated when it doesn't go in, you know, I think they start to press a little bit, you know. So you don't know. You just kind of keep throwing them out there, keep throwing them out there, keep throwing them out there. So what's she shooting from the 3-point line now? About 50-some% or something since she's been back? Some ridiculous number, right? So the question is now, I want her to get more of them. And that's on me. Like, I've done a shitty job of some games getting more threes for our guys. Like, we'll play a game, we'll shoot 30 of them. Then we'll play another game, we'll shoot 10. And that's, you know, we didn't change anything. It's just, you know, it's weird. But I got to keep upping the number of threes that we're going to get. And yet at the same time, her and Paige are maybe two of the best mid-range shooters in the country. So what are we gonna do? Become analytic university here? We're like, hey, no more pull-ups, only threes and layups. Good luck with that. Those two guys live for those little pull-ups.
Ash too.
You know, Ashton too. Yeah, she's another one. So, I don't know.
Is some of,
I think you just keep throwing them out there, and the more shots you can get those guys, the more open shots we can get. And if we're not getting a lot of open shots, then you know our offense sucks because we've stopped moving. But when the ball is moving and we're moving, it's fun to watch. It's really pretty to watch. Everybody's touching the ball, and we're getting buckets from everybody. When it's standing around and we're watching each other play basketball, then that's really frustrating. So you say, you know, how close will you be? The more we move, the more she's involved, the more touches, the more transition baskets or opportunities. So I'm not worried about those guys.
is some of that a byproduct of how the teams are playing? Obviously, you took a season or tied a season low in 3-pointers against St. John's, but they're
Yeah.
number 2 defense in the league.
Yeah. I think that okay, so we scored 25 in the first quarter. How'd that happen? But down because we get back to the question, isn't it great to have a lot of players that you want to play? Well, the more of those guys you put in and things change, the chemistry changes, the combination of, you know, people out there changes. You don't create as much off your defense because the next group may not be as experienced. Now all of a sudden, all that stuff dries up. So there's a lot of, and you're playing against a really, really good defensive team, for sure.
And if Aubrey comes back, that helps you on that's going to help
I
you on
hope
the
so.
defensive end.
I hope so. Which means Aubrey's going to get more touches going to the basket, mid-range, you know, which means that's less threes for you and less threes for you. So everything that comes with a bow on it also comes with a return to sender on the other side.
So, Geno, given all the things that we've talked about with Paige, you know, injuries, number of games, unselfishness, all of those things, where do you put her in the Mount Rushmore or pantheon of players that you coach? How do you kind of sum up, put her career in perspective there?
Up to this point, you know, this notion that you have to win a national championship or multiple national championships in order to be considered, you know, a generational type player or an amazing type player. There are a lot of great players that have had amazing careers that have never won a national championship, that have never been to a Final Four, okay? So, you know, you can't use that as a gauge for where she would be. You can just, I think, use my thought process is how much did she dominate the college basketball world during the 4 years that she played here? And if you took her off our team, how many Final Fours would we have made?
Yeah.
How many national championship games would we have played in? You know, what opportunities would we have if she wasn't on our team?
And she's carried you.
And how many great All-Americans has she played with? I don't want to say this, but I think the number is 0. Would you agree?
Well, compared to
Aaliyah.
what you have.
Aaliyah.
Lee was the only All-American.
Right, Aaliyah.
I think she's the only one.
Yeah, Aaliyah.
And then Sarah, probably.
You know, so given that it's usually been a young team or somewhat of an inexperienced team or an injury depleted team, given all that, and we've been in the Final Four every year she's been here. The 1 year we got beat was the year she sat out. So how many players can say they were the best player in the league and went to the Final Four every year that they were here? Unfortunately, because she plays at UConn, there's a list. And any other school, that might not be the case. But here there's a list. There's a list for everything. You know, hey, you know, where does she rank as the greatest assist player? Well, there's a list of those guys. You know, is she the best shooter you've ever seen? Well, there's a list of those guys. So she benefits from that, and she has to deal with that. But in my mind, I don't know. I don't think we would have anywhere close to the success that we've had during her 4 years here if it wasn't for her and her ability.
A little bit of an aside, but
Last question.
first day of Unrivaled today. I mean, there's been other leagues like this that have come and go. I mean, what made you confident, just kind of as an investor in this league specifically, kind of being able to make it?
I mean, clearly, the easiest and most truthful answer for me is my confidence in Stewie and Feast. Like those two people as people and their character, who they are, and the people that they're involved with. When they came to me and said, hey, this is what we want to do, I'm investing in the two of them as opposed to, hey, this league has, you know, the ability to just skyrocket and become, you know, the biggest thing in all of women's basketball. It may. I mean, we don't know. I think it's going to be fantastic because that's kind of, the world likes that right now. You know, fast-paced, 3-on-3 has been really, really good at the Olympic level. You know. So I think the league is going to be fantastic. But personally, I was investing in Fisa and Stewie. And when I found out how many other people at what level were also investing in it, I felt, wow, I made a good decision. But I think they're going to be. I can't wait. Really, I'm excited to see. I wish they would play around the country, like Barnstorm. You know, like go different towns and play.
Like the
you know.
Globetrotters.
Do the and
I
one
think
for
they're
it.
going to.
Yeah, like do that stuff.
I think starting next year they're going to.
Oh, they are? See? I must be like a low-level investor, because if I was a big investor, I would know that.
You would have
shit
known that already.
I would have known that already. I would have been like, yeah, I'm the one that made them do it. So I didn't even know that.
They called me first.
But I think that's probably the next big thing for them. Take that show on the road, you know. But I think they're going to kill it. I think they're going to knock it out of the park. All right, guys.
Thank you, Geno.